I don't know how many fans Batwoman had to begin with. Even, I mean,
Nice.
let's put it out there. I
Wow.
mean,
Wow. I'm clipping this right there. I'm clipping this.
well, I mean,
I'm clip. This is the preview. I'm clipping.
Ay cabrón, ya llegó el negrito de Los Angelitos with my people. Everybody come on, echa un grito. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. The Slant. The Slant. All right, Paul, let's go.
It is the Latino Slant, and I am Paulie. And how you guys doing? I hope you're well. We have a very special show, very different show, and yet a very Latino Slant show. Because the Latino Slant today, and always with us as well, is going to be the BLAXICAN Slant. Ooh, I like that. The BLAXICAN Slant. That just sounds right. So it is the Slant's take on Black History Month, but more importantly, not just mine, but a couple other people's takes, their slants, actual historical figures in Mexican history. I think we're just going to stick with Mexico. I think we're going to try to stick with Mexico in some of the African Mexican historical figures. Yeah, we're going to pinpoint it down. So this isn't just my idea, and yet it's such a amazing idea, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out and sticking with us. But I don't want to do this alone. And a person who really chatted me about this idea, and I was like, yeah, let's do it, y'all, is La Reina Creole. Hola.
Hola, Paulie, ¿cómo estás?
Thanks for it's been months now that you've been telling me about these different historical figures, and hey, listen, it's February, why not, right? Why not? But yet it's different because this isn't like MLK, Malcolm X. This is Spike Lee.
No.
These are real historical figures from back in the day that have captured your imagination, my imagination, and apparently they have lasting ties in Mexico, in our history. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, Yanga is one of those people that I had just came across because I know Paulie, I'd actually discussed this with you. It's like when I was researching my family, one of the tools that I used to help myself do that was with DNA testing. So while a lot of people in some of the forums online were getting results back, like saying, oh, for like the past 200 years, my family were in South Carolina or my family were in Virginia and all of that, it didn't show up for me there. And it wasn't until I looked at DNA cousin matches, they were all coming from the Caribbean, and one place in particular, which I did not suspect, and that happened to be Mexico.
Mexico lindo y querido. No,
Mexico. And I was just like, of all places, that doesn't seem to make sense. But then the more I started looking into my family's history and looking into just how many countries that Florida changed hands, that's when it started to make sense. And trying to look into how is it that Africans landed in the New World and more specifically wound up in Mexico. That's how I came across the story of Gasparinga, which we'll get into.
Yeah, and connecting it to the present, because a lot of people in my family are Black, and they're in my case married into the family. So we have these beautiful kids growing up, cousins, nieces, and nephews.
Mhm.
And they're never, and there's a lot they're just not talked about. And I want to be able to give this to them, you know, a sense of pride, a sense of connection, a sense of belonging, because it's like
Mhm.
that you don't belong with the Mexicans, you don't belong with the blacks.
It is it's just fascinating. I mean, I
Yeah.
didn't think that there was a part of my family that would come from there,
Mm.
and to find out about that, it makes me want to learn more more about Mexico.
So before we dive in, I thought I'd bring a friend along.
Cool.
Very smart person, a very cool person. He's got a lot of stuff that we like, as far as, the stuff that we're fans about, as far as DC and Marvel, and he's a martial artist, and he's a great dude. I'm, I'm talking about my friend, Just Reggie Official. Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, finally, right?
Yeah.
Finally. And I feel that you and a friend of ours have been really like kind of in your own fandoms you've dug in deep with DC. When we work out, you guys would argue about certain things. So it's cool to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
What I'll preface this with, because the title is one of the first Black liberators in the Americas. So what I like to tell people is that most people are familiar with the Nat Turner slave revolts
Right.
in the 1800s in the United States.
Okay.
So most people are familiar with that. Fewer people are familiar with the Stono Rebellion, which was in Stono, South Carolina, around circa, I want to say, 1700s.
Okay.
Around that time. But almost 200 years before that,
yes,
you had this revolt in Mexico, which, again, I had never heard of. Most certainly hadn't heard of any slave rebellions in Mexico. And then to see how far back this was.
Yeah.
1570.
Yeah. So what we have here is Gasparinga of Veracruz led a revolt against slavery in 1570. He was a prince. Gaspar Yanga was one of the first Black liberators in the Americas. He led one of the most successful slave rebellions. That's good to know, because there's a lot of them that weren't.
No.
Gaspar Yanga was born in 1545 in West Africa and was a member of the royal family of Africa's Gambon. I'm saying that right. He was an African prince. He built a colony of African descendants. In 1570, Yanga led a slave revolt and escaped with a group of followers into the mountainous terrain surrounding Veracruz. They went to a place called Star Mountain, which is the highest mountain in Mexico and part of the Olmec region. Isn't that interesting? The fact that oh my God, the Olmecs, who were of African origin, were one of the first civilizations in Mesoamerica, back before the Aztec and Mayans. Yanga knew about the Olmec tradition and looked for this area because he knew he would be safe with people of his color. Yanga and his people built a small maroon colony. They were made up of African runaways who escaped from slavery in the Americas and formed independent settlements or joined with the indigenous people. Yanga's colony was called San Lorenzo de los Negros, but in 1932, the town changed its name to Yanga.
So kind of to add to that, they were also known as Cimarrones.
Oh, okay.
Basically, from what I heard, is Spanish for runaway. So you had a lot of these Cimarron communities. You had a lot of them in the Caribbean. You even had some of them in the Americas, where they were able to separate, fiercely protect their lands, so they weren't captured, and they were free, and they did trade and all of that. So there were several Cimarron settlements like throughout the Spanish Caribbean. So a lot of slaves would try to escape to these Cimarron areas because they knew that they would be free and be protected.
Yanga and his people survived more than 30 years through farming. They also waged a campaign against Spanish colonial rule raiding caravans and carried goods and other supplies between Veracruz and Mexico City. Yanga's raids and the ongoing movement of Black, indigenous, and indigenous slaves to his community upset the Spanish plantation owners, so they called on the colonial government to take action. The Spanish authorities decided to take control of this territory again in 1606. Yanga negotiated and won a free area from Spain. Excuse me. Yanga asked the Spanish for an agreement with terms that included a free area only for Yanga's group, and in compensation, they would fight in support of the Spanish in case of any conflict against them. Finally, the Spanish had no other choice than to accept the terms laid by Yanga. Y'all should have just listened to Yanga at the beginning. Save a lot of lives, shoot.
Yeah.
1860, after the Mexican independence, Gaspar Yanga was recognized as a hero of Mexico thanks to Vicente Riva Palacio, the grandson of the Afro-Mexican president Vicente Guerrero, who gathered the first information about him. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
Wow. No. Now, every August 10th, the population of this town celebrates El Carnaval in commemoration of Yanga's legacy. People celebrate and appreciate their freedom in Yanga's town.
What was news to me is that some of these communities actually celebrate Juneteenth, which, is crazy to me because, that started mainly as a Texas thing. And it's funny that it made its way across the border. Like Lorena, I didn't hear about Gaspar Yanga until probably college or after college. Of course, Nat Turner. I knew about Joseph Cinque. Plus, then they had the Steven Spielberg Amistad, which got a lot of eyes on the history. But as far as, and I also knew of Maroon communities, in the Caribbean, but not specifically Mexico. That this was kind of the last historical figure I learned about who led a revolt successfully. And it happened to be someone who did it in Mexico. So it's definitely a story that needs to be told a lot more.
You are deeply rooted in Florida, right, Lorena?
Two places, Florida and on my father's side, Louisiana. So there was a period of time, I want to say about 50 years, where everything from Florida to Texas was all under Spanish control.
Yeah, we should say that this is the Spanish Viceroyalty of New Spain, 1810. Okay, so yeah. And Reggie.
Yeah, so as far as we've been able to go back, I think my aunt actually did it, and the earliest history we have on our family goes back to Georgia in the 1700s. Although most of us know the history that we know from people that lived in our lifetime came from Louisiana for the most part. Through DNA testing, of course, we found out that we have some West and Central African in our blood. But as far as in the Americas, it's Louisiana by Georgia.
So as far as I know, my grandmother's family's from the area around Nueva Navarra, Guadalajara, town outside of Guadalajara. Even though my grandmother, who's at this current time, at this day we're filming this, is 93 years old and quite alive.
Oh, wow.
She's from the town called Sonora, but it is in the state of Arizona. So there you go.
When Cortez first landed there, because what a lot of people don't know, that when Cortez landed, he also brought a lot of West African muscle with him as well when he landed, and some of them intermarried with a lot of the natives that were there. So that's like one of the first landing places in Mexico is Veracruz. I know his story would make a cool miniseries. I know that. It's one of those stories that I wish was told more widely. But I'm glad to find out that more people are hearing about who he is, especially if you have those who who are of Mexican descent to learn about these people that help build, your history.
I'd agree 100%. Any type of long form narrative that you have when you have history, war, political differences, political struggle that takes place over a wide time span. You just got a lot more time to flesh that out, with a serial format, and then you can compact it into a 2-hour movie time frame.
I heard that. That's why you have some bad historical biopics.
Yeah, I don't know who might see this, so I'm not going to name any films that. Yeah, so I'm not going to name anything.
All right. It's all right.
Yep.
So, there's a connection between Yanga and this next gentleman, and that this gentleman and his descendants made sure that Yanga would not be forgotten. This gentleman is Vicente Guerrero, and Vicente Guerrero was one of Mexico's first presidents. And in his short time as president, he did a lot. Let's give you a little rundown of who he was. Vicente Ramon Guerrero Saldaña was born August 9th, 1783 in Tixla, now the state of Guerrero in Mexico, to a humble family. His father, Juan Pedro Guerrero, was African-Mexican, while his mother, Guadalupe Saldaña, was a native Mexican. Guerrero's journey as a national hero began while traveling as an herrero around New Spain and becoming familiar with the growing independence movement and meeting Jose Maria Morelos y Pavón, a leader of the rebellious movement. Guerrero started his military career in 1810 after meeting Morelos and participated in many important engagements. After Morelos was executed by Spanish firing squad in 1815, Guerrero became the new commander-in-chief in the insurgent army. Guerrero became more powerful with every victory. And in an effort to stop him, the Spaniards in 1819 convinced his father to beg his son to offer his sword and surrender to the viceroy of New Spain. Instead, the younger Guerrero said defiantly, "Brothers, this old man is my father. He has come to offer me rewards in the name of the Spaniards. I have always respected my father, but my motherland comes first."
One of the interesting things to point out about all
Please.
of this, when the independence movement was going on in Mexico, that was actually an offshoot of the American Revolution. You heard the shot heard around the world. Eventually, other countries wanted independence from the mother country. And in Spanish colonies, that's also why in Spanish Florida, my sixth great grandfather, which was Don Francisco Javier Sanchez, he backed the patriots because in the eyes of Spain, if you were a Creole born in the Spanish Caribbean, or in his case, a Floridano, you were actually seen as a second-class citizen.
In February 10th, 1821, when both legions united to form the Trigarante Army, the army of the three guarantees, religion, independence, and unity, Iturbe wrote in the Plan de Iguala on February 24th that declared Mexico as an independent and sovereign nation, where the following points were established. New Spain was no longer a Spanish dependent. Catholicism became the nation's official religion. The unification of everyone despite their African, Mexican, Asian, or Spanish roots.
That is in contrast with what was going on in America, because that's like 1821, correct? Okay, yeah. 1821 is when Florida went from Spanish rule to American rule. So a good percentage of people were trying to leave Florida because even though they were free, they were not sure what the American government was going to do.
I mean, to further add to that, this is 40 years after the 3/5 compromise. So, I mean, it's a stark contrast to what's going on, just to the north. This compromise, that's when basically the problem with voting and delegates was that a lot of states had, like South Carolina for one, had like majority slave populations, and they, the local governmental bodies wanted to get their share of voting power. So what they determined was that basically each slave is 3/5 of a person. So for every 5 slaves you get 3 delegates, being counted towards, public elections. So, and the ruling that went along with that, the arguments were like, black people are soulless beasts.
And let me add to that during the taking of the West, which was a slow occupation and then eventually became, land grabs and real estate schemes, and that there was a lot of Spanish Mexican landowners that took their cases to court, and the judge ultimately would rule against them, stating that same thing, that Mexicans were nothing more than beasts in the fields. So there you go.
Just to add a little bit more to the 3/5 compromise as well. Another reason was that majority slaveholding states like South Carolina and like Virginia, for purposes of power in Congress and the House of Representatives, they wanted all of their slaves counted with the population. Northern states said, no, that's going to give you an unfair advantage over us. And if you want us to ratify this Constitution, we're not going to reward you with increased representation in Congress so you can count your slaves. So the compromise was made to only count them as 3/5.
Before I go on in Guerrero's, he's about to take over Mexico. Take over Mexico. He's take over the presidency. Go and take over. Here's a photo of the caste system, referred to the social stratum in which someone belonging according to her race or mixture of races in the Spanish colonies, New Spain and Philippines. Each casta had a particular name depending on the race or mixture of races. Vicente Guerrero now rises to he's risen to power, and there was some exchange of who was president, but during his brief tenure, which started in April 1st, 1829, he became the second president of the Republic. Guerrero made remarkable changes to support working classes. Despite the serious economic limitations, he granted rights for indigenous people, fought for both racially and economically oppressed people, and promoted the purchase of Mexican products. Sounds so familiar nowadays. His government was clearly dedicated to the people who had many needs after years and years of conflict that left the nation with a predominantly poor class.
These are universal themes. You hear, as we have probably all read, money is the root of all kinds of evil. And, you have a system that's put into place to basically ensure that wealth stays where it stays at the expense of other people. The wrapper being, or the window dressing being, the differences in appearance are used to divide people. But, ultimately it comes down about power just seeking to maintain itself.
On September 26, 1829, to celebrate the anniversary of independence with an act of justice, Guerrero formally abolished slavery in Mexico. It's 1829. This monumental declaration, however, would lead to his downfall. Many people, especially the wealthy class, opposed his populist egalitarian idea, and even members of his administration opposed and betrayed him. Big surprise there. So more so, Euro-American enslavers, especially in Texas, did not like the idea of losing the economic power they had based on slavery.
Absolutely not.
At the time, Texas was still part of the Republic of Mexico, and Guerrero's order arrived in Texas October 16th. But political chief Ramon Musquez workers rejected because it violated the colonization laws that secured the settlers' properties. Unfortunately, Guerrero's decree did not make any changes over slavery in Texas. This ultimately became a reason why Texas decided to secede from Mexico and join the United States, which still practiced slavery. After 3 months of his declaration, Guerrero was driven out of office. His own officials said that he did not possess the intellectual capacities to govern a nation, and he was forced to resign. Imagine that. Guerrero fled to southern Mexico, fearing for his life. However, Anastasio Bustamante, his vice president, ordered his assassination without a legal trial. On February 14th, 1831, Guerrero was found and killed at the age of 39 in Oaxaca. Africans left their cultural expressions in Mexico, music, costumes, dances, and food, as well as their genetic imprint in states such as Veracruz, Tabasco, Michoacán, Guerrero, and Oaxaca. Although the races blurry or difficult to identify thanks to the mixture of races throughout Mexican history, today there are many terms used by Black Mexicans to identify themselves, such as negro, moreno,
Afrodescendente.
Thank you, Afro-Mexicano, or Blaxican. They self-identify as Afro-Mexicans. In 2020, one of the official ethnicities options on Mexico's census forms is negro, Black, a great achievement by the Black community in Mexico for having their African roots recognized. Mexican culture would not be the same today if Africans had not been brought there. Mexico would not be what it is if someone like Vicente Guerrero, a Black man, had not fought for his land and his rights, which is why he has been called Mexico's greatest man of color.
I had never heard of this man before until I happened to watch Dr. Henry Lewis's Gates. He has a series called Black in Latin America, which I thought was BS, so I didn't really watch it until I found out that, I had Afro-Latin roots. And I'm like, where the heck's that special? Where the heck's that miniseries? I'm trying to find it. And one of the sections was about Afro-descendentes in Mexico. And I think it's available on YouTube. Henry Louis Gates says, so basically you had your Barack Obama before we had ours. And she's like, yeah, pretty much we did centuries, that before. I had never heard of this guy. I had never heard of him in even the brief part of Mexican history that I learned in high school. Had never heard of this guy.
As a Chicano who I have more progressive than I do conservative beliefs. I'm shocked that I didn't know about these people. I guess I stopped at I knew Benito Juarez was such a great indigenous president, and he wrote letters to Lincoln. Father Guadalupe Hidalgo started the independence thing with his grito, with his back in 1810. But I didn't know about Guerrero. I didn't know about Gaspar. I'm like, they're now added to my list of Chicano heroes. Absolutely, and I think that's what makes this makes it a beautiful thing, because we can come together and talk about these incredible people.
You guys have said it all. It's great to learn this, and it'd be great if more people knew about it, and it would part of a formal history curriculum. Because I didn't know anything. No one ever told me anything about Guerrero. At any level of school. I just kind of happened to find articles on the internet about him.
Right.
And, given how short, his tenure was, and, what happened and how he was ousted, it kind of makes sense as to why more people haven't heard about him. You got a guy who's, leads a rebellion of sorts and is president for less than a year. And ultimately rejected, split the country over slavery.
These figures of who are we could say mixed, right? and leading people to higher ideals of what it is to be, a person, and humanity and compassion, and being as taken out just because of we don't, we like what we got, we like the system. It's like you kind of get reminded of some of those, old, those old ways of thinking with some of the news of the day. And to connect it to what we're fanatic about, as far as our, heroes and legends and sci-fi and the comics. Race swap is a real controversial thing. It just seems that almost every week there's like a new project with, a different take on Batwoman, different take on Supergirl. And what to you, Ledena and Reggie, would be race swapping in popular, popular culture of TV and films of these characters?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an archetypal example. I know with the new Batman that's coming out with Robert Pattinson, they casted I'm forgetting his name. So somebody help me out. He's from Westworld. Jeffrey Wright. Jeffrey Wright is Commissioner Gordon. And people were upset about that. It's probably the most notable character that I can think of off top that has been race swapped. To me, there's a few things that go along with this, right? Most of these characters were created at times when basically they're all one thing for the most part. They were created during, a much less progressive time than we were, where, legally, people who weren't of the dominant past, if you will, were sidelined and not seen as, capable or heroic. That's changing now, obviously for the better. And I think people are trying to redress that by race swapping. And how well it's done, I think, depends on the character and who it is and how it can fit in the story. Someone like a Jim Gordon, can you have a black police commissioner in a major city? Yeah, we've had them. There's nothing about Jim Gordon that says this person must always be a white man, in my mind. I think if you talk about some characters, like if you talk about Superman, the way that they have him created, farm boy from Kansas, kind of all American, it makes sense to a degree to keep that character white. That's kind of, if you make that character black, you have to tell that story in a dramatically different way. It can be done. It can be done. But that's, it ultimately becomes a different character when you make them black. Someone like Jim Gordon, it's like, okay, he's a police chief. What's the big deal? So I think it depends just on who the character is. I know a lot of people are in love with comic accuracy, but, we've seen Jim Gordon on TV, back with Adam West. We've seen Jim Gordon with Michael Keaton, and, the same guy played him in the 80s and 90s. We've seen, who else played? Was it
Gary Oldman?
Gary Oldman played Commissioner Gordon.
In Englishman.
So, it's like we've seen, a number of iterations of this character. Why not have a really talented actor who happens not to be white take on the character?
So right now we're kind of defining it as like there's an established race of that character, whether it's in the comics or sci-fi movies, and they're changing it out for someone else. Is that correct? For lack of better words, Lena?
I would have to agree. It's for, like, say, for example, you have Magneto. Okay. His origin story is he's Jewish and he was in a concentration camp. That is his origin story. If you race swap him, his origin story goes away. So that does a disservice to the original person of the character. Now, switch to, like, say, for example, I'll use Justice League because I have to use this because it's the first place that I saw him. You have Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White. I didn't see a problem with that because Lawrence Fishburne is a top-notch actor. Absolutely top-notch actor. And I didn't hear a whole lot of chatter about maybe it was just me, I don't know, but I didn't hear a lot of chatter about them race swapping Perry White. All I heard is they cast Lawrence Fishburne. This is going to be off the chain. It didn't change anything really about him. So for me, race swapping is more of you're doing it just to do it. And you're not adding anything to the story. Like, one of my biggest problems with Batwoman, I didn't have a problem that they made Batwoman black. The problem that I had is they had a piss poor story to go on with it.
I think
that was the problem that I had.
I think I got through 15 minutes of the first episode and I couldn't go
You're
on.
better than me.
And I'll add to what you said. I think a casting that they actually added to by race swapping was Jason Momoa's Aquaman.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
You have someone, a Pacific Islander take on the role of, a person who's aquatic, from the water. It makes a lot of sense. And you have just way more dimensionality to add to the character by giving him some ethnicity and a varied background. So, I mean, that's an example where it just completely worked and added to the character.
Worked. Right. So I think at the end of the day is, if it works, great. If you're doing it just to do it because of checking all the boxes, and you have a really bad product, then that's even that shoots everyone in the foot even more, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know how many. I mean, gosh, I don't know how many fans Batwoman had to begin with. Even.
Nice.
Let's put it out there.
Wow. I'm clipping this right there. I'm clipping this.
Well, I mean,
this is the preview. I'm clipping.
Well, wait a minute. So wait,
we're on air now. There we go.
You're not wrong.
So let me give some further context to that. I think even before, when Ruby Rose was in the role, at least online, I'm not saying that these are my opinions, but a lot of people who were already fans of the CW version of DC didn't like season 1 that had Ruby Rose in it. So
that is correct. I heard that is correct.
I did.
So I don't know if this was a drop off or not. I haven't seen a single episode of either season of Batwoman.
Okay.
Personally, I liked the first couple seasons of Arrow, first couple seasons of The Flash. And that's really about it for the CW for me. I didn't really get into Legends or Supergirl or Black Lightning too much.
There's that school who will tell you, that school of thought, that group of people who will tell you, don't mess with it. Don't change the race. These are our legends. It's like Ryan Gosling starring in MLK. They make the memes. You see Ryan Gosling starring in Malcolm X. I've seen those memes.
Yeah, that exists. But there's one thing when you're talking about a fictional character and someone who actually lived and breathed.
Exactly.
Okay. When they cast Denzel Washington play Winston Churchill, come get at me. Until then, kick rocks.
Exactly. And I would
Dick
ask,
rocks.
and in all seriousness, I would ask, what is it that you're afraid of? Again, we're not talking about historical figures. For example, the one, I guess, BBC series where they race swapped Anne Boleyn. Now, Anne Boleyn was a historical figure.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it really does not make any sense to make her a Black woman. I'm sorry, that's not what happened. If you want to make a fictional artistic account, like say Hamilton did,
Mm-hmm.
I could live with that. But again, I would ask, what are you so afraid of
Well, I
when you're
can answer that.
seeing characters swap like that?
I can answer that. I think that same fear of the unknown is just there, guys. It's just ignorance. You know, I really don't think I think a small amount of people are really racist. I think the ignorance is just, you know, it permeates so much. It's like they don't even see it. It's like you know, give it a chance. Well, speaking of pushback, let's go to our story. From Bounding into Comics, the Flash director Andy Muschietti race swaps Supergirl. The Flash director revealed that he race swapped Supergirl in the upcoming Warner Media produced film. Muschietti made the announcement when he shared a video to his Instagram that shows him in the video chat with actress Sasha Calle. Speaking to Deadline, Muschietti revealed he was personally involved in the casting process. He stated, "I saw more than 400 auditions. The talent pool was truly amazing, and it was very hard to make a decision, but we finally found the actress who is destined to play this role." According to Deadline, Calle is a Boston, Massachusetts-born Colombian actress. They describe her as the first Latina Supergirl ever in DC. Calle previously played Virginia in the socially awkward TV miniseries. More recently, she played Lola Rosales in The Young and the Restless, which they didn't mention. She was nominated for an Emmy for. Thank you.
Oh, nice.
And that she actually went to a very prestigious acting academy here in Los Angeles, but they didn't mention that.
Slipping.
Now, here's where we go, guys. Supergirl was originally created by Otto Binder and Al Plastino first appeared in Action Comics number 252 back in May 1959. She was most decidedly a white woman. There you
go. Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody's debating that part.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many ethnicities do they have on Krypton? Do we know? Do we really know?
Exactly. Is it just the one that we're being shown?
Right.
Because like you said, this was like what, 1959? I don't remember a whole lot of Black superheroes in DC Comics in 1959.
No, I mean, Marvel totally led the way. DC was late to the game with, they even had, a green Martian before they actually had a person of color. So
Supergirl has previously been played in live action by Helen Slater, who first played the character in the 1984 Supergirl TV series. Laura Vandervoot, who portrayed the character on Smallville, and the more recently Melissa Benoist would play the character in the current Supergirl series on the CW. Why? What do you make of this Supergirl casting? So yeah, let's get your takes on this.
One, I'm going to take issue with the title of this article, and here's
race
why.
Swap.
Because they're talking about race swapping. Now, the actress, she's Latina. Okay. I have cousins who are white and Latina. I'm Afro Latina. This isn't race. This is ethnicity. So that's mistake number one. And injecting race into it in the title like that, it seems very disingenuous to me in order to do that. And it kind of puts the discussion down a path that you know, that's unfortunate, because I find that to be inaccurate how they have that listed. And then second of all, from what I understand, by the way that the casting director put it, picked her out because she was the best person for the job. Like, you're telling me she's Emmy nominated. Did she win an Emmy, or was she just nominated?
No, nominated, and also for Young and the Restless, which any daytime soap opera actor will tell you that is the toughest acting to do.
That's very prestigious coming from her. So it seems like they picked the best person for the job regardless. So I don't understand the hand twisting that she happens to be Latina. I'm just thinking, so what? If we're talking about equal opportunity here, they've obviously picked the best person for the job. So why is this a problem? There's nothing that says that Supergirl has to always be white and blonde, and not to say that she has to dye her hair blonde. And this is just me being obstinate. I'd say keep her hair dark.
Reggie?
I don't have much different of an opinion to share. I think, you know, if she's the best person, she's the best person. You know, a lot of comic nerds get caught up behind comic accuracy. You know, just she needs to have blonde hair, and they'll cite, you know, Jessica Alba back in the day in Fantastic Four, and you know, once again, these are fictional characters. Supergirl, you know, I don't have a problem at all with this casting at all. You know, I have nothing. I mean, maybe blonde hair would help, but I don't even think it does. I mean, she's Superman's cousin. He doesn't have blonde hair. You know,
Henry Cavill doesn't.
Well, here's
blonde hair,
and they kind of look alike. Here's an artist rendering from Boss Life that Boss Life did earlier today, I believe.
That's really nice.
Pretty stunning.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can give my 2 cents here, which is more than 2 cents, is to approach this from the angle that not just bounding into comics. I'm not going to single them out, but a lot of people have in the communities, from a race point all the way at the beginning. You've already done this, right? You don't even know what the story is. You haven't seen anything. You don't know anything, right? Well, she's Latina, she's black. So I'm reminded of that speech in the movie Selena where Edward James Olmos says you got to be more Mexican than the Mexican, you got to be more American than the American, because it's tough being both. You got to work double. It's like this woman, this actor, right, went to a prestigious school of acting, singing, songwriting, graduated, got the role in acclaimed soap opera, right? She's already like leagues above millions of actors. Just that. You're learning 35 pages every couple days. You guys try to do that and then deliver performance. Then to get nominated. Then at this young age, get this coveted role. It's like, that's not good enough. I almost feel that just by doing that, just by throwing the race in there, you've already said this actor, this decision isn't good enough. You've downgraded it, and it's you know, for all the fervor that these people have when they do that, right? Where is their fervor when these roles were when they were originally written, fictional characters back in the day, written as a black or a Latino, where they ended up being played by white people? Where is your outrage then? Ben Affleck, Argo, Chicano. Jennifer Connelly, A Beautiful Mind, Salvadoranian. Three Kings, George Clooney, guy was black. John Ridley wrote him as black. And I can go on and on. Where are your videos? where are your articles, man? Come on, I want those articles up too. You know?
Yeah.
And
I'm waiting for somebody to get mad about Bass Reeves. Well, the Lone Ranger is the whole story is based on Bass Reeves, who was black. And I think
wow,
they touched on that. What was it? What the Watchmen HBO show kind of had a little segment on Bass Reeves in there, but yeah, the whole story of the Lone Ranger is based on this black guy, and every incarnation brought to the screen has always been a white guy.
Yep.
With an indigenous sidekick.
Name stupid.
I mean,
yeah.
And historically, throughout Hollywood, you've had, Caucasians routinely play other ethnicities. You've had blackface, brownface, the whole gamut for years. So, and today where you have people earn the role, I think rightfully, to play fictional characters that, in a way that they were different than what they were conceived. You have all this outrage. It's not consistent, nor is it proportional to what we've already seen done the other way.
I have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
Now they'll say it's not, we're not ignorant. We're not racist. We just, let's write new characters.
Miles Morales, Spider-Man, or
no, they hate Miles Morales.
Oh,
really? I didn't
know that.
Yeah. He doesn't.
Yeah.
Don't like him.
Well, they hate Black Panther too. So, and he was, even though it has nothing to do with the Black Panthers.
Really?
Nothing. Black Panther was created before the formation of Oakland's Black Panthers.
Oh, I meant hate for Black Panther.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hate.
Okay, maybe I was out of the loop on that one, but that's very surprising.
So in this age of where this actor who is of Latina descent, and if that's what the vision is, that has nothing to do with the actor who gets it. That's what the vision is. If that's what Andy Buschetti wants to do, who is a Latino filmmaker, he's done some amazing films. He did the It movies. He did a movie called Mama in Spanish about 10 years ago. That movie scared the crap out of me. Boy can make a film. Maybe he'll make a good Flash movie. But if his vision is, I think if anything to be weary about is what's the vision? Are you trying to rewrite Supergirl and she's a Latina from an impoverished country? Then yeah, that's probably not cool.
It's kind of like the same thing that happened with Batwoman, when they race swap her character and then immediately they wind up writing her as a perpetual victim. That's the thing that I took issue with. I said, if you would have had Batwoman who, say, was a vet or a dissolution prosecutor, even someone who was a former drug dealer, but they're trying to build up their community and they're just sick and tired of just drugs and crime running through it. Someone from a position of power and of strength, but no, they write her as a perpetual freaking victim, and that's not good.
She's homeless, living in a van. She's on probation. She can't find a job because no one will give her a job because of her record. So then she goes. There's an actual scene after she finds the bat suit that she goes to see her probation officer, right? Yeah, it's really bad. So I will say, if Supergirl is anything like that, I can't imagine it's a film. I can't. I would be really disappointed.
I doubt it. We'd be hard pressed to see them make that kind of creative decision in a motion.
Yeah,
picture.
and I see that that level of Batwoman here and that level of Buscetti and what they're trying to do with their films a little higher. But that's just me.
Yeah, the other thing with this movie, they're doing, like, the cast for this is crazy. It's like a timeline. It's a story that's called Flashpoint in the comics, where basically the Flash goes through time. He goes backwards in time and sort of crosses universe through the multiverse. So you see different versions of the Flash, different versions of Batman, and so this is going to be a crammed movie, from what I understand. I'm interested in how this plays out. Honestly,
which has its own issues, right? Whenever you're trying to do too many characters, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, this it's. I think it's unfortunate where articles like that and people's reactions, where this character has to stay blonde, has to stay white. It's like that's it's a it's a little cringy for me.
Yeah,
it's a little cringy. It speaks to an old way of thinking, and it's like, guys, we don't want bad product, but this is a new day. We got
evolve.
Yeah, and we want new characters written, of course, that are unique and different, but these are just different visions. And there's nothing wrong with trying to evolve, like you said.
Well, there's going to be more coming because they have a Green Lantern Corps show, and one of the Green Lanterns that's going to be on is Jessica Cruz, who is written and created as a Latina Green Lantern. So
really,
yeah.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Wow. So it seems, because I see the side where it's like, God, everywhere I turn, they're race swapping all my legends. What's going on? I mean, that's a real sentiment out there, and I don't want to diss it either, because I don't want them like to, make Luke Skywalker or anything other than a farm boy. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? And then we'll wrap it up.
I would just say I get it. But at the same time, don't be so trigger happy in a way to discount people who are open to seeing a different vision, because there's that pushback as well. Like if you kind of just say, you know what, hey, maybe it's time for the character to evolve. No, you're against it. And they kind of demonize you. Not saying all of them do. Some of them demonize you for that. So I would say to kind of keep a balance, when people are coming at you, like, I don't want my classics to change. Understand that sentiment, and at the same time kind of respect that sentiment when you reply back, yeah, but what's wrong with seeing a different vision of that character? Kind of give me a reason for that. Kind of start that dialogue going on there. You find people may be receptive, and for those who aren't, oh well, you just move on. But yeah.
Reggie?
Same thing. It all depends on who the character is, how it's done. I can understand from for the bird's eye view, it can feel like Lorena said, certain things are changing, and it's being done at an institutional level that feels forced and without tact. But at the end of the day, you still have Spider-Man, Iron Man, Thor, Captain America, Superman, Batman.
Yeah, true.
You have all the big, major, great fictional characters that were made 50 to anywhere from 50 years ago in American pop culture. They all look one way. They're all white males, and if we're going to continue to do this in a society where we say we're all equal and it's about meritocracy, then we have to open that up. It's hard to break a new character that's going to be at that level. It's just going to be hard. You can write, new characters to your blue in the face, but it's too hard to establish a character in those universes that can actually stand with or supplant, the franchises, the IPs that are already established. So
that's a great point.
Being a more open-minded and inclusive with casting is a great way to do it, especially if you're doing it for a character where it could be anything. An alien from Krypton could look like anything. If you're going to say, if Earth was a fictional planet and Krypton was real, I mean, would the Kryptonians say, Earth people only have blonde hair and blue eyes? No, well, it's not. We know that as Earthlings, right? We know, there's 6 continents with people and a variety of different ethnicities and cultures, and especially in America, we need to celebrate that.
Thank you guys. Wow, that was great. We'll try to figure out how. I got to edit all together, but we'll make it clean, man. We'll make it clean.
That's the hard part, right?
All right, everyone, back here on the Latino Slant. I want to. Well, it's not the Latino Slant, right, guys? It's the BLAXICAN Slant.
Yeah.
We got to do this again.
Yes, definitely.
That was beautiful. I want to thank my guests. Let people know what you guys are up to. Let's start with Mr. Reggie.
Hey, y'all. Reggie. You can find me on Twitter as Just Reg Official. I am a musician and a screenwriter. I plan to direct a short, perhaps later this year when things get a little bit safer. Paulie's a good friend of mine, and I very much enjoyed being a guest on the show today.
All right, thank you so much. And there she is, Miss Lorena. What are you doing? What are you up to?
Hey, everybody. I'm Reina Creole, and up to a lot of things, actually. So you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube. I have 2 live streams on my channel per week. On Fridays at 12 noon Eastern, I have the Lunch Table Show that I co-host with Fat Steven Seagal. And on Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern, I have my Welcome to Florida show where we talk all things Florida, crazy Florida man stories, Florida history, including history that you haven't quite heard of, because my family has been in Florida since 1565, so it's very interesting. And we also talk some theme park history and news and all that stuff as well. On Mondays at 10 p.m., you can catch me on Toxic Femininity over on Midnight's Edge. And on Thursdays, you can find me on Justin Proper's channel at 7 p.m. for This Week in BS. And on Thursdays for the Queen's Council around 9:15, 9:30-ish. And the location rotates per week. So just follow me on Twitter and you can see where I'm at that evening. And thanks everybody for watching this video. It's been a wonderful time.
Did you get all that? If you didn't, we got her Twitter account for you. Thank you guys so much here on the Latino Slant, the BLAXICAN Slant. It's been a special show. We'll see you soon. I want to thank my guests, Reggie, Reina Creole, and we'll have more information and we'll have all those links to some of those historical figures in the description below. Be well, take care, paz y amor.